Hello and welcome back to the Lee Summit Town Hall podcast. I'm your host, Nick Parker. This is a good time to remind everybody that this podcast is brought to the good people by Budget Blinds of Lee Summit, a great local store run by a great local family. They are your home for enlightened style shades. It's also, I'm going to look over at my guest at this one because he probably doesn't know. It's your home for the smart stuff. You want to tell your phone to raise your blinds? You can do that. You can do that with stuff from Budget Blinds. We like to call them our robot shade overlords.
Love how you have that spiel down. That's great.
I do. I really do. It's been a few years. They have been longtime supporters of Link to Lee Summit, of this podcast, the Lee Summit Town Hall podcast, and great supporters of really so many things around the company. So when you're ready to make your home a smart home, go see our friends at Budget Blinds. Tell them Nick sent you.
You know whose birthday is going to be.
Well, look, this is a great segue into my guest because the patriarch of the Budget Blinds, Jim Stoddard, shares a birthday, same day, same year with my guest, Nigel Woodbury. Welcome back to the show, man.
I appreciate it. He doesn't look a day over 72. It's fine. Sorry, Jim.
I mean, look, I tease all the time that, you and I are partners for another podcast, and we're going to talk about that show today. But I tease all the time that, you're 10 years older than me, but I look 10 years older than you do.
Yeah. Here we are. I wouldn't say 10. Yeah. Here we are.
Yeah. I've got the grays.
I just don't show the grays.
Well, that's true.
You've grown them out.
Although yours is showing more as you let your hair grow out.
Well, if you're tall enough, you can see that.
Well, look, I invited you back to this podcast because of the other show that we do, and as we honor and celebrate Black History Month, one of the things I thought would be interesting to talk about is the show that we do called Beers with Nigel, and I want to get into a little bit about why you started it, why you came back and said, Nick, I got things I want to say, and I want to do this show, and really the idea of that show for you, the main premise, tell me if I'm wrong here, was to shine a light and to talk about Black-owned breweries and people who we don't really know about those stories in the beer industry. It's a giant $4-5 billion industry. And what is the stat? Less than 1% is Black-owned?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. And if you think about when we started back in 6 years ago.
Yeah, right.
It was spurned by my trip to the artist known as Fresh Fest. This is now Barrel and Flow, the number one beer fest in the United States. I went because I discovered, our podcast daddies, Ed and Day. Shout out to the now defunct Drinking Partners podcast.
Which, by the way, we were the guests on their last episode that never aired.
Yeah, we'll circle back to that. But it was listening to them and really knowing the handful of Black people in beer in Kansas City, and finding out there was a whole another community of people of color who were into the beer scene, and then going to that beer fest. And I've told this story 11 times. You know what that is.
I do. That's a lot.
Yeah. Going to that beer fest and actually walking in for the first time into the symposiums that they were doing before the beer fest, and there were 99% of the people looked like me, and I was like, it was a watershed moment. I was like, whoa, I'd never seen that before, and so. Going and seeing what they were doing as far as that fest is concerned, as Day would call it, it's an art fest,
Art fest disguised
as a beer
festival.
Because it's not just beer, it's art, it's music, it's culture, it's education, it's food, and it was just one of those things where, for a person like me who's into the beer scene and works at a brewery.
I feel like, I always tease that you're kind of the ambassador of Kansas City beer.
And just probably beer in general, if I go someplace, I'm looking for the brewery. So, and especially if it's Black owned, because there's so few and far between. And so that was the watershed moment. Then when I was like, you know what, you and I kind of have similar backgrounds, and you've been doing podcasts for years or whatever. I'm like, why don't we do a podcast and talk about beer? And
which my response was, huh?
Yeah, and delve into not just beer, but the personalities in beer. And once COVID hit, that was kind of a watershed moment for us, because we're like, oh, we can talk to anyone anywhere.
Right.
Because it was going to be about Kansas City beer. And so over the years, we've been able to shine the light on some personalities, and not just Black folk, but, different personalities with different, stories, because it's storytelling,
Right.
But it's cool to find out how people got into beer, especially black people or even women, and how they got into it and where they started and what the stories are. So really, our goal, and our goal continues to be, or mission, is just to tell the stories, but also, you may not have heard of, FunkyTown in Chicago.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you're
Crowns and Hops in L.A.
Yeah.
Which but it doesn't have a place.
Yes.
But if you go to a Rams game at SoFi Stadium,
Yes.
you can get their beer.
So, the people we've had on the podcast over the years, a lot of people who have probably listened to the podcast have never heard of them. And now they're on their radar. So I think that in that regard, I think it's been good to shine the light on, there are black people in beer and there are black-owned breweries. I mean, think about Vine Street.
Right.
I mean, we were touting them as well as we were touting the Barrel and Flow Beer Fest, for years. I mean, how many times have they been on the show?
Countless.
I mean, they were famous on our show before they were famous.
They threw us a party for our 100th episode.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think, and look, I know this is part of it is those are things that I didn't think about. And like I think the first time I went to Barrel and Flow, which there are a lot of stories we can tell about my first time there with you guys, but like I didn't think about, like, to me it was so weird. Not weird, but just eye-opening, I guess, the first time we went to that festival, and there's people walking around with black people drink beer too.
Yeah.
Because from my perspective, I'd never thought of it that way.
Right.
I'd never really taken notice that beer commercials always look the same.
Yeah.
And the malt liquor commercials have different people.
Right.
I like that hadn't clicked, and I think until people made me open my eyes.
Yeah, I mean it's perspective is everything, and to you're in a world where most people look like you. So, you know what I'm saying? So you don't necessarily have to think about those things, where as a black person you kind of think in different ways, because you kind of have to. You have to move in spaces where you're the minority or whatever. I mean, back to your point, you going to Barrel and Flow, and I asked you, I was like, you ever been around this many black people? And you were like, no.
Like, no, not by myself, no.
But, again, it's...
But I will tell you, that was probably one of the best, craziest weekends I think I've had, as an adult, right?
Yeah.
We're just meeting people that I'm never going to be around if I hadn't had that experience. And people that are now friends, and we like to say it's a family reunion every year, but
and I think beer is just the gateway. That's the one thing about it. Whether it be at a beer fest, whether I'm sitting at a brewery, whether I'm anywhere, it's a doorway to storytelling and getting somebody's story. I mean, I talking to a guy last night at the bar. We knew we had a connection in California, in Pasadena. Well, then we got to talking. We're like, oh, we lived in the same city, or ran in the same circles, But this was all over a beer. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
so,
right.
It's one of those things where, I can remember years ago at Grains and Taps, R.I.P. downtown Grains and Taps, and this guy, he wanted to talk politics. I don't talk politics because I don't care about your politics. Your politics and your religion, that's you. We don't need to debate it. I don't. And at the end of it, because he wanted to talk, I was like, I said, dude, at the end of the day, we can sit here and have a beer and that be it. And it's fine. So, beer is I know I'm stealing from wine. It's a social lubricant. You know what I'm saying? Sorry, wine.
But I think you were spot on, and we've said it so many times before about it's the gateway, the doorway to telling stories. And that's kind of, I think, what I want to ask, because, people know you. I feel like I don't have to introduce you, but Nigel Woodbury, downtown resident. You used to work at City Hall. You run Transparent Brewing, the tap room now, down at off 150 and 71, or I guess I'm supposed to say I-49 now. I'm old.
It's 71.
I'm old. I still say 71.
It's 71.
But you're a former reporter, former news guy. I mean, albeit it was TV, so it only half counts. But but I mean, so you saw stories that you wanted to tell. You wanted to talk about. Hey, wow! I just went to this place and I saw people in beer that looked like me.
Yeah.
Like, was there what part of your storytelling, your reporter brain clicked in that you're like, I want to and I can tell these stories? Or did it catch that way at all?
I think it did, because I'm curious by nature when it comes to that, of getting to people's history, so, and even the way we do the podcast, I kind of flip-flop back and forth between, someone of color, or Latino, or even, Native American, to somebody that's not that's white or whatever, because everybody has a story, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what color you are. The story is your story. And I think you would agree that's interesting to us.
Yeah.
I mean, we just did a podcast at Jay Rieger. Had nothing to do with beer. He didn't even want to drink the mystery beers we brought.
Right.
But the story was great.
It was a history lesson.
That's what I'm saying. And so really, if to your point, if you think about it, when you get somebody's story, we're getting a history lesson from them about their lives and how they got into beer. And, so when it comes to minority beer, their stories are different than, let's say Pat Lively down in Oklahoma City.
Right.
The story from, Vine Street is vastly different, and why they got into it, because they're kind of on the same vein of, black people drink beer too. So, those stories of being a minority brewer, not only are there beer stories, but they're personal stories and stories that go beyond as to why I wanted to do this, Whereas I've got friends of mine that, we just wanted to open a brewery. That was, there was that, then that was that.
Right, yeah. A couple brothers sitting around thinking we need $10,000.
Yeah, exactly. That was that, as opposed to a broader mission. I mean, look at FunkyTown in Chicago right now. Dude, they just got a big $1.5 million grant. I mean, they're doing things that are really community-based. Yeah, it's about beer, but it's about community, and it's
community, it's friendship. I mean, these are guys that have been friends for their entire lives.
I mean, Barrel and Flow is the same thing. It's, Dave will tell you, this is not mine anymore. I'm just kind of letting people take it. That's why they're doing it in New Orleans this year.
Yeah, he kind of acts like the custodian.
If even that, and because he's still to this day shocked about it, that how, what it is now.
Well, and they're to tell that story, and we've had them on several times. They're comedians.
Yes.
And
who just happened to drink beer.
Who happened to drink beer, and that became the way they told their stories and their jokes, and they met people around their community in Pittsburgh, and beer was kind of the accident. Is that the right word?
I would say so. And to maybe coin a phrase for Day, he's kind of a beer activist. You know what I'm saying? Where there's beer involved.
He is a social activist, 100%.
But there's beer involved. But he's very out there and very intentional. You know what I'm saying? And so that, again, going back to where this all started, that was one of the things that you meet a guy like that, and he's running 100. Like the way he drives. You know what I'm saying?
Lord.
I mean that's his person. I mean, would you expect anything less?
No.
And so, somebody like that who is interested in, not only introducing, black people to beer, because it's still a niche market, but also at the same time doing other things for the community. I mean, they had a STEM workshop at Barrel and Flow last year.
Right.
I mean, they had you remember the truck that had the barber in there? You go get a haircut. So it was all,
it's community.
Yeah, so it was all the things you local vendors, food, drink, not just beer. There was any other libations that you'd like. It was all the things that if you went to, like going to a farmer's market. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you mentioned something, you use the word intentionality. So your plans, your mission, and it's funny. It's like I'm asking you, but I'm a part of it. The mission and the intent is the intent of telling the stories of the brewers and the people involved, because it's not all brewers. that I
Right.
talk to.
It's
In the industry.
It's potpourri of people.
It's in the industry, and I like the way Dave Bracey really focuses on it's getting people involved, getting black people involved at all levels of the industry, not just brewers, but all aspects of it. But is the intention of spotlighting them the same as the intention of reaching to the black community and saying, hey, there's beer out here. You could be a part, like inviting them into the community. Is that the same?
On some levels, and of course, when I think about that, I think about Vine Street, right?
Right.
Vine Street's in a historically black neighborhood.
But it's such a mix of people that are
the most diverse tap room I've ever been to. The only place that even come close to seeing that many black people in a brewery, places I've been in Dallas, maybe Oklahoma City. That's it. But Vine Street is to me one of one. Obviously, I know if there's some places in Atlanta that, are doing the same thing. But I think, Vine Street's a good example of, being in the neighborhood, being inviting for anyone who wants to come.
Being in the neighborhood, but also bringing people from outside the neighborhood in.
And introducing people in the neighborhood to beer, because that's not something that's in the 18th and Vine district, even though a mile and a half down the road, there's 4 breweries, right?
Right.
So for me, if I invite you in and, you're a black person and you're like, oh, beer. And then you get curious about, well, how many, they may not know there's any other breweries in Kansas City besides Boulevard, right?
Right.
And so, if that gets you interested, then you might venture out and say, well, what else is out here? Because obviously there's alma mater in a mostly predominant, Latino neighborhood. So you might travel over there. So, it's one of those gateway things, and not just for black people, for white people too, because there's a lot of white people who wouldn't go to 18th and Vine. So let's keep it real.
Well, right. I mean, look, we know the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum is there. And that's probably it. That's the draw for a lot of people.
Well, Arthur Bryant's.
Yeah.
But then again, you know this. How many people do you know from here who have never been to that museum?
Right.
The majority of the people that I know have never been there.
Never been, or that's the only thing they've been to in the district.
They know of 18th and Vine.
Yeah.
They know that's it. But, and that, historically, again, I worked in TV news here for years. And even talking to one of my friends who's a retired cop was like, well, I wouldn't go down there. I'm like, why the fuck? Nope, sorry. Bleep that out. Why not? You know what I'm saying? Because, again, the perception that's portrayed on the news is that these are not safe areas. You know what I'm saying? And so sticking a brewery down there, that makes it a little safer, at least perception-wise, to a lot of people.
And we've seen families in there.
Yes.
Right? Like people all the time.
Grandmas.
Grandmas. I think to me, that is cooler than seeing people who bring their kids in, right? Like grandma's in there with us.
Well, really, the coolest thing for me is to see black women in there, because that's not people you see in breweries. That when I walked in there and saw that, I was like, okay, I see what y'all is doing here, because that's not something you see. Even where I work, I get a few black people, but it's probably men,
right?
Or if I'm out of the, out in the wild. I mean, even this last weekend, I was in Florida. Hell, did I see any black people?
Well, let me ask this, kind of with your news background. So the medium that we're using, the medium we're on now, podcasting, is this effective? Like, do you think that this is a good place to tell these stories, to show people these stories and what's available, what's out there?
I think it's.
I mean, we have a great time doing it.
I think it's a different approach, and I think, to shine the light on different things. This is kind of our niche. You know what I'm saying? So we have people who listen to our show that are not necessarily beer drinkers or people who go to breweries. They just like the stories. And I get that from people all the time. I really love that story. So I think it's effective in our little microcosm of what we're doing, because we do have, I've got people asking me, when's the next episode coming out? I'm like, we'll talk to Nick.
Well, you know, when Nick stops being lazy.
So I think in the beer community, I think it's opened some eyes to some people who've been like, I've never considered that, or I never knew about that place, or this person, or that city, or that thing. So in a small way, we're doing the Lord's work. The Lord of beers, the Ninkasi, the goddess of beer. We're doing her work, on a small scale, because I think, if you take your individual tap rooms, those are microcosms of communities that, I have certain people that, they go to other breweries, but they frequent Transparent. Shout out to Transparent Brewing. So
no, and I'm sending you an invoice.
Yeah. You probably owe him because you haven't put out that podcast yet. But
it's out right now, as of this morning.
But I think all politics is local, right?
Right.
Change is based on me first. I can't be like, oh, you people need to change. Well, I need to start, and then I affect one, and they affect one. I think that's what we're doing, but I think we're doing it in a way that is, fun, informative, and and sometimes we hit on some things that can be a little sticky, But I think it's and not to put down any other podcast. The beer podcast I've listened to, I'm like, that's fine. You guys are talking about the malt base, the SRMs.
Yeah, we rarely get into the weeds of beer.
Yeah, we guess the ABV. That's as technical as we get.
And we're almost always wrong.
Or we can't read it.
Right. Well, old.
One of the others got that OLD.
I'm not mad about it. You went a totally different direction than I think I was heading with that. And I think one of the things I'm curious about, though, is if you look back, you've been a TV news guy, you've been a radio guy, you've worked communications for a city. Is this? I guess really just the medium itself. Like, how does it fit when you look at it from, you used to be a journalist. I guess really too what I'm wondering is should we see maybe some more people or more organizations like, look, we're doing this for our local newspaper, right? This particular episode. Should other community news outlets or even bigger ones think about telling stories in this way and addressing community issues or things? Can we be effective, or are we, you and I, being effective at not only getting those stories out, but I think making people think? I just used think twice.
Yeah, I think learning histories of people and their stories kind of opens your mind to some things. As far as podcasting goes, I think it's free form. That's what I like about it. The one thing I didn't like about television news, you'd go to a news meeting, and you'd have 10 people in the room. They'd decide what's news for the day, I've covered some things that I was forced to cover. That's why I got out of TV news, because I'm like, why are we covering this? But, I'm watching Fox 4 this morning.
Or trimming an all-day shoot into 45 seconds.
Yeah. Or like I'm watching, the Fox 4 News in the morning. They've got their little ticker thing. And, I always wonder who gets to decide what's on that ticker. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we're going to put the 3 shootings on there. We're going to put whose base camps from the World Cup's going to be here. Who's deciding this? Whereas you and I can sit and decide, okay, who are we going to talk to? What questions are we going to ask? We don't have an editor. We don't have censors.
No, we're our own bad editors.
Yeah. But again, we're telling stories. And, the one program that I will watch is CBS Sunday Morning. That's storytelling, man. Mm-hmm. That's actually real storytelling, and not just, oh my God, this happened. Because perception is reality. And if I worked in the news business for years. people are influenced by what they see on the telly, and they think that's real. I tell the story. I was working at Channel 5 years ago in the 90s, and this guy, he was an editor from California. Somebody told him, don't go east of Maine. I was like, who told you that? Probably a white person. And I'm like, you realize there's families over there, there's grandmas, this, that, and the other, and I've always told the story. Anytime I went on a shooting or whatever, they probably, generally, they knew each other. It wasn't just, there's a stray bullet every now and then, that sucks. But for the most part, it's dumb young cats doing dumb things. Or, Super Bowl Sunday, full moon. There's certain 4th of July. There's certain days that
bring out the
yeah.
dumb.
I mean,
and look, that happens everywhere.
Yeah. So, it's. I'm not sure where I was going with that, but I think what we're doing is a different lane, and there's a bunch of different lanes to tell stories, and the way we do it is the way we do it. And it's different, but I think for people who listen to us and the people who've gotten to know us over the years, they appreciate it, and they're like, because it's not news, it's not slanted, it's storytelling, and who doesn't love a story?
Yeah, and I think you can have certain intentions about sharing stories. From there are times that we want to tell a story.
Right.
We want to tell a story about a minority-owned brewery,
right,
or whatever, right? I mean, and you hit on it that there's so many of that we've talked to, not just black-owned breweries, but women in the business, Native Americans in the business, right? Like all these things. I think you can have that intentionality, but still, we're here for a story.
Yeah,
and the best episodes we've had, right, are ones that we didn't expect it coming. I mean, I love those. I don't care if it's the show you and I are doing or any other interview. I love when I have to shift gears because I just got something I wasn't expecting, and it's amazing.
And that happens to us a lot. And again, when we're telling the story and what comes out, that's the thing that affects people. On one way or the other, when you listen to any of our episodes, you're going to get something out of it. It may not be something that's meaningful to your life, but it is something you didn't know. I mean, one of my favorite episodes, we were in here and we had Maura Rain in here,
right?
Drag queen, and she got into how she was bullied for being gay. Same with Aaron when we were at Bricks, he cried. Yeah. Anybody crying on your podcast?
Not often. No, but I think, we thought we were going to talk about her shows,
but
right? And then we get this whole backstory.
You know good and well, we love to let them just go.
That's true.
Because that's why when people ask us, do you have questions? Well, yeah, too. Yeah,
you and I have look, I think we have similar approaches to it, but I think also we've done it long enough. And we trust each other enough that we know when to shut up.
But also I think people are comfortable with us. It's very rare. I can think of one time that we had a podcast that the person wasn't. I don't
remember when that was.
It was Beale Street.
Yeah.
But that might be a function of his personality or him being in Memphis at the time. But even the people we've had virtually they felt comfortable. And I think we set that up in the beginning with our rules. If you're gonna have a podcast, you gotta have rules,
right?
So I think we make people comfortable, and generally we've met them before. Very rarely have we just. I mean, granted, I've reached out to people I've never met before, say, "Hey, you want to come on the podcast, Melissa Cole?" But then again, I'd met her in London, so that doesn't count. But there are people. I just reached out.
We see them on social media. We're like, I kind of want to know more.
Yeah. I mean, because really, that's, to be honest with you, when we first started, and especially going to Barrel and Flow and going to Fresh Fest, all these people that I met, I started following on social media. I'm like, oh, I want to talk to them, because I talked to them in person. I'm like, who are these people?
From Chicago, Afro Beer Chick.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, Shalonda. Yes. Met her. I'm like, oh, I got to have her on. And
I just knew her from social media, and I was like, that's That's got to be a great story, and it was.
And at that time, that was
there was a lot going on.
Yeah,
in 2020,
and somebody went off on her on the artist formerly known as Tweeter, and it turned into a whole national thing. Well, I forget what was it called. The hashtag something. I forget what it was, but it was a whole big deal that she got people rallied behind her.
Yeah.
So again, on some level, we were touting that. I mean, let's keep it real. Before Marcus Baskerville got famous, he was on our podcast,
right?
Because I knew of him, and I was like, I want to talk to this guy. We need to get him back on though. He's back in beer.
No.
Yes. Yeah.
No. I just heard that he got out.
He closed. And then went into the restaurant business, and now he's back in beer. So we need to circle back with him.
Well, let me ask this as we kind of wrap things up a little bit, because I know you actually have to go to your paying job.
It's tap cleaning day for those
for those in the know.
Yeah.
Are there stories we've missed? I'm sure there are, but I mean, are there things that you want us to get to that we haven't? I've got
a stack of business cards. I've got one in my pocket right now.
And I'm thinking not just people, but are there some things we need to tackle?
I don't necessarily think we need to tackle specifics. I just think when we get those people, we find out what we're tackling. It's not necessarily we're going in to tackle something.
You
right?
just want to find new stories.
I
think that's what we share.
And so this is my. We're talking about organization. This is my organization. So next on the list, and this is from a guy that I met last year in Memphis. Brian Beretta, Memphis Filling Station, really great brewery, really great guy. I mean, one of those, he just happened to be there, and you get to talking to a guy, and you want to taste some things off the tank, that.
The answer is always yes. By the way,
and so then
if you're at a bar, a restaurant, a brewery, and the owner, the chef, the brewer, whatever, says you want to try some things, answer is always 100% yes.
So I think. There is a plethora of stories out there, dare I say 5011, that we don't know about. You know what I'm saying? They're out. We don't know what we're going to get. It's like unwrap. It's like a mystery beer.
I think you just hit on my favorite part about the show that you and I do. Is it fits our kind of, I don't want to say lazy, but our laissez-faire attitude about the podcasting. Like, we don't make a lot of plans.
Yeah.
We just want to go find people and anyone and figure out what that next story is.
I mean, how much did you know about Jay Rieger before last week? You didn't know that, did you?
No, I knew, what we'd seen in the marketing.
Yes.
I knew a couple, I've read a few stories over the years in various publications. And then we got the full history from Ryan, the co-founder. That'll be posted next week, by the way. Go find that. Ryan, maybe the co-founder of Jay Rieger.
Yeah,
he
crazy.
He opened and ran Manifesto, the old Rieger restaurant.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why I'd never put that together until we met him.
Yeah, I mean, again,
that's the same guy.
Again, we went in there with no expectations, and again, this was a guy that I knew his name. I'd seen him around. I've met Andy a handful of times. I was at KC Beer. And Steve Holly, the owner, comes in transparent every now and then. And there was a cigar whiskey tasting thing, and Ryan was there, and I was talking to Steve. I was like, hey, we need to get you on the podcast. Ryan was like, I want to be on. I was like, hold on, man. One at a time. But it's funny now because, I've been talking to Steve, and Ryan already beat him on the podcast, so we'll have to give Steve some crap when we see him on Sunday.
There we go. That's our next recording episode. Yeah. I get to do this to you. This is fun because usually on our show I have to say these things.
Yeah.
But Nigel, where can people find Beers with Nigel?
Let's see. On Facebook, on Instagram and Facebook are probably the main places. YouTube, if you want to see the show, that's a whole different experience.
Most of the time, there's video.
Most of your, generally, any podcast app, just Google Beers with Nigel, or just it'll pop up. There's only one show called that we know of.
That we know of.
So anyway, where else? I think that's the main places you find us. Normally you get to do this. It's not part of my stick.
Well, when you started, I didn't think I was going to have to be on the microphone.
What fun would that have been? Me just talking.
I don't know.
I don't know. This has been way more fun.
This has been way more fun. This has been way more fun. Hey man, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. I just kind of felt like this was good to get out and talk about why you did it and what we're doing.
Yep.
I get to really just kind of hang out and have fun and
learn things.
I get to tag along, and say stupid things.
I mean,
I actually talk less in that podcast than I do in any other one.
Sometimes.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, before we wrap up, I'll throw you a question. What are it's been 6 years.
I just posted episode 131.
Yeah.
Which is weird. I feel like we should have more.
Have you ever thought about the things that you've learned from doing our podcast?
I mean, isn't
that crazy if you think about it?
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, I could talk about the technical things I've learned, right? Like well, not like seriously. Like we have become better. At producing shows, right. But really, I think about the people. I mean, there are people I never would know. I would never have in my life. And we joke a lot about Barrel and Flow. That festival in Pittsburgh is a family reunion, but it is.
Oh yeah.
These are people that I see maybe once a year that I would never know otherwise if it weren't for this podcast that you and I do. And they're important to me. They are important relationships.
And, on the tail end of that, think about when we went to Pittsburgh last year. And we go into the hotel.
You're going to make me sad again.
Yeah, we go into the hotel and we go upstairs and everybody's there. And it's like, oh, my God. It's like a love fest. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody's hugging and high-fiving and dapping up and, how you been.
I wasn't there last year.
Yeah. But you've seen that.
I have. No. And
you've seen that.
And that's the thing is you go to festivals and usually it's just you go in, you've got your group of people, you kind of mill around and drink and talk, try things, meet some of the brewers. But this festival is a whole other thing.
So think about this. What we're doing, and then we've got to know all these other people over the years and have interviewed other people. Because obviously when we put out a podcast and somebody's on the podcast, they're sharing it, this, that, and the other. It's a kind of a spider web. You think about it. So that, and to answer your kind of overarching question, that's the impact, is that we're part of this network that's part of a network that's part of a network that's part of a network. You know what I'm saying? So it's spread out because, energy doesn't die.
And I think when I tripped and fell into podcasting, this was not a plan. Right?
Yeah.
Right. I didn't realize that it was or could be community building.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we understand the way networking and marketing and we understand how all that works, but it's more than that. It's not just, hey, if they share, I can get access to other people for other guests and other things, right? It's these are real relationships.
And another one that
when was the last time that either one of us, I mean, seriously, when was the last time either one of us paid full price at a brewery anywhere in the country?
I did in Florida. They didn't know me, so. But I
mean, I feel like, look, we've been there together. We have walked in to a new brewery.
Yeah.
And they may or may not have known who we were, but like they understand the relationships.
Yeah. And even like, your masterful design of our stickers. Those are all over the world.
Yeah.
I've weird. And every so often somebody will send me a picture that they were just in another country. Hey, I saw your sticker. Heard.
What the hell?
So, and so, I know you kind of downplay that it's the design. It's unique.
It breaks all of the rules of graphic design.
Well,
and look, I am not a graphic designer.
Well, you did that time. So anyway,
let's just say there was social lubricant involved.
Heard.
Anyway, thanks a lot. I appreciate you taking some time to come on this show.
Yes, sir.
It's fun, but it's not near as fun.
Yeah. Don't tell people that.
That'll wrap us up for this week. We'll talk to everybody next time.